Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. We say and we hear the words of Alden Solovoy as we begin Shabbat, where he writes these words: Shabbat is the place where time and space meet, without questioning how the beginning began or how the ending ends. Shabbat is the place where song and silence meet, blessing each other with the gift of rest. Shabbat is the place where dreams and angels meet, yearning together for a world of peace. Shabbat is the place where holiness and eternity meet, praying together for the world to come. And Shabbat is the place where we meet, where we say and we sing how good it is for us, for brothers and sisters, to be together in prayer, to be together in community, to be together to welcome Ron Wolfson as he will later in the service share his thoughts and his good works with us. And most of all for us to pause in our busy weeks and to pause on Shabbat, to breathe deep, to hold carefully and hold in balance that which has been with that which yet might be, and to give thanks. So in that spirit, I invite you, please, just to take a moment and a breath, and perhaps focus on one moment this week for which you are especially thankful. We continue as we welcome Shabbat, page 121 in our Sidurim in Mishkan Tefillah. You will find that is, for those who are joining us for the first time, that is one of the blue-bound books in the seat pocket in front of you. And we begin by kindling the Shabbat lights, for which we invite Liz Ornstein to join us on the bima for kindling of the Shabbat lights, page 121.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue on page 123 with Kiddush, and we invite you, please, to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'gafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbatot shame'ava u'bratzon hilhilanu, zikaru l'ma'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tekilah v'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'arta, v'yatanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava u'bratzon, hikratanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat.
Please be seated. Let's continue praying responsively on the top of page 124, and we'll have this side begin with the words "we enter," and then this side continue with "now we." So come, let us pray together, page 124. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves.
May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us like
Join us, please, as we continue on page 130 with the singing of Lechuna Ranana. Page 138, we have welcomed one another, we have begun Shabbat, and now we formally greet the Sabbath bride with the singing of Lecha Dodi. It is our custom to sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and at verse 9, we all of us rise, we turn toward the back door, and we welcome the Sabbath bride. Please be seated. We continue at the bottom of page 145. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
Amen.
on page 146 as we rise for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'divaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, u'vitfuna mishane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hakochavim b'mishmaroteim b'rakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mibnei choshech v'choshech mibnei or, u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla, Umavdil ben yom uven laila Adonai tsevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than the holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please be seated. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Together at the top of page 161, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporez sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue now with the singing of Vishamru at the top of page 162. Was Achad Ha'am who said more than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. We continue as we turn to the words of the Tefillah on page 164, and once again we invite you please to rise.
Adonai,
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Top of page 173 is where we'll continue together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ratzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam be'ahava tekabel, utihi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all of these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot. We take a few moments, we pray, we meditate in silence. We'll continue on page 371 as we turn our prayers, our hearts, and our thoughts to those in our community who are struggling, those who for weakness of body or of weakness of spirit are in need of support, those who are caring for them, those who are loving them, and those who are supporting them along with those who are struggling. And we say, Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, Hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and strengthen those who are struggling. This evening we are holding in prayer James Boyle, Zachary Couch, Barb DeCario, Thomas DiMatteo, Mark Friedman, Elizabeth Friedman, Yeshaya Idel Ben Gittel, Dennis Goldsmith, Ira Coleman, Abby Kohat, George O'Krent, Karen Jacobson, Marty Jacobson, Dorothy Jacobson, Shana Esther Bat-Ruchel, Beth Shackman, Moshe Ben Leah, Florence Sporn, Chaya Sivya Bat Avraham Vidvora, Lori Conway, Ed Mazinski, Howard Itkin, Jonathan Behrman, Chris Sura, Scott Rosenfeld, and Ross Goldenberg. If there are other names that you would add to this list or names better spoken aloud by you, please, as I look your way, would you share that name aloud with us?
Mark Gower, Charles Ford, Alan DeMayo, Shannon Pye, Joe Pye,
Larry Davids,
Stan Soda.
Eileen Spiegel.
Cheryl Schwab,
May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them renewal of body and of spirit, and let us join together in saying, Amen. We are taught that it is our sacred obligation, it is a mitzvah to visit the sick. We say Bikur Cholim, that is incumbent upon us in community. And so very much of what we do and how we are a people is in the way that we care for one another. And Mishaberach is but one place, coming together in prayer is another place. Wearing our finest disco apparel on this bima for Purim is another way that we come together and laugh in community as well. And so much more for us to learn about how to be in deeper and stronger relationship with one another. And I invite Liz, please, to join us at this time to welcome Dr. Ron Wolfson.
Wow. So I have to tell you that tonight is the fulfillment of a promise that I sort of made to myself a lot of years ago. I was just sitting here trying to figure it out. I had my adult bat mitzvah in 2003, and it was before that. Anyhow, I went to a biennial, and at biennial on Saturday afternoon at lunchtime, you have a choice of seminars to go to. There's like 25 of them. And I chose the one being given by Dr. Ron Wolfson. I didn't know very much about him, but I had heard some things about what he espoused. Anyhow, this is going to be hard for some of you who know me to believe, but I was extremely shy in those days, very shy. Really was. Anyhow, I approached the room, and here's this guy standing outside, and everybody who walks in, "Hi, I'm Ron." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to talk to him? What do I say? I said, "Hi, I'm Liz." What can I say? Anyhow, by the time the talk was over, I said, "I wish we could get him to Rochester." Now, at the time, of course, who would ever have imagined that I would someday become president of this congregation and give a talk in front of all those people? Oh my God. And eventually become chair of adult ed and say, haha, we're going to do it. So it's been a long trip, and it's a delight to welcome Ron here. I brought the paper up with me because I can never remember your professorship. So he is the Fingerhut Professor of Education at American University of Jerusalem in Los Angeles. And someone the other day said to me they saw my credentials and they thought it was long. Nothing compared to that. Ron was the co-founder of Synagogue 2000 with Rabbi Larry Hoffman, right? Yes. And Rabbi Hoffman was actually Rabbi Katz's thesis advisor when he was at HUC. Yep. And then Synagogue 3000, both of which are focused on helping synagogues become more vibrant, focusing more on relationships than programs. Not that there's anything wrong with programs. And to create sacred and vibrant synagogues for the 21st century. I was going to tell you all the books he's written, but you can read that in your brochures. So it's really my pleasure to welcome Ron to the Bima.
Wow. That's a beautiful introduction, right? Wait a minute, I gotta give you a hug. Thank you, Liz. Gotta do this right? How's that? Am I good to go? Shabbat Shalom, everybody. That's the best introduction I ever had, really, in any synagogue, ever. Liz and I have become great friends over the internet, over these years of planning, or this year of planning. So thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. I'm glad I made it to Rochester. And thank you, Rabbi and Cantor and Bernice for the challah. Thank you so much. And it's really a pleasure to be with you. So as I was talking to many of you during dinner hour, the shmooze, right? Shmooze? I love it. It's the best thing ever in a synagogue. And what a magnificent place you have here. Isn't this gorgeous? It's just spectacular. As I was going around, if people were asking me, where are you from? I'm from Los Angeles. I live in Los Angeles, but I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, where, yes, there are 5,000 Jews when I was growing up. And I came from a wonderful, wonderful, warm Jewish family with a bub and a zaidi, a grandma and a grandpa and grandma. And my mother was very active in our synagogue. So my two brothers and I grew up in a warm Jewish environment, but they didn't think they could do the whole job of teaching us boys about being Jewish, so they sent us to Hebrew school. I went Monday, Wednesday, 4 to 6. Anybody? Monday, Wednesday, 4 to 6 when you were a kid? Tuesday, Thursday, 4 to 6? Anybody? Sunday morning, 9 to 12, even if you weren't born Jewish, all right? Right? Yeah. Did you have Mr. Friedman? I had this guy, Mr. Friedman, Rabbi Gottlieb. I had this old great friend. One of the great Jewish educators in the world is sitting in your pews right here. I had this guy Friedman for 3 years in a row. He was from Lithuania. He knew nothing about teaching, but he had a good neshama. You know what neshama is? A good Jewish soul. So he came every afternoon to our conservative synagogue to teach us kids a little Yiddishkeit about being Jewish, a little bit about being Jewish. He knew nothing about teaching. I had him 3 years in a row, Bet Gimel and Dalet. I learned one Hebrew word. One in 3 years. Why? I was a terrible kid in Hebrew school. I wanted to be somewhere else at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wanted to be on the playground with my boyfriends. I wanted to be home watching the Mickey Mouse Club because I had this huge crush on Annette Funicello. I didn't want to be in another classroom, so I was terrible in Hebrew school. In fact, Mr. Friedman had a name for me. He called me in Yiddish, I will translate, Wilde Chaya, which means, some of you, wild animal. That's what he called me. I did anything I could to get him off the topic. And so the one Hebrew word I learned, which I heard all afternoon, was this: sheket. Sheket. Sheket, sheket, sheket. Who knows what that means? It doesn't mean quiet, it means shut up. That's what it This is a true story. All my stories are true, Rabbi. It's a true story. I went for my first bar mitzvah lesson. And in those days in Omaha, the tutor was also a guy from the old country. So at the very first lesson, he pinched my cheek, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "Nu, sonny, what's your name in Hebrew?" I said, Sheket. I thought my Hebrew name was Sheket ben Abraham for the longest time. And he had no classroom management skills. If he got really upset at me, he would yell a curse at me in Yiddish. But he knew I didn't know Yiddish. So he translated it into a kind of mangled English. He'd get beat red in the face and he'd yell this at me. I'm like 8 years old. He'd go, "You, Wolfson, go to the back of the room and spit in your own face." Now, do you have any idea what that means? I'm 8, so I would try it. I'd go tweet, tweet, tweet like that. True story. You're getting a kick out of this, aren't you? Don't do this in your Hebrew school. So, the funniest part of this whole story, it's another true story. I was such a bad kid in Hebrew school that the people in my synagogue, my shul, growing up in Omaha, could not believe that I became a professor of Jewish education. So it took them 20 years to invite me back to my home synagogue, 20 years to give a talk. So I had scheduled, and my mother, bless her soul, Bernice, another Bernice, that's why I love Bernice, not just your challah, I love your name. My mother, Bernice, may she rest in peace, made sure the place was packed. It was like Kol Nidre. There were like 800 people. Like almost every Jewish person in Omaha was in the sanctuary that night. I give my talk, it goes well, and at the end of the talk, I say, "Are there any questions?" From the front row comes a hand like this. I look down, it's Mr. Friedman. I say, "Oh, Mr. Friedman, it's so good to see you. What's your question?" He doesn't have a question. He stands up from the front row, he turns around to the whole congregation, and he says in his Lithuanian accent, "Rami Wolfson was the best student I ever had in Hebrew." Oh my God. So, a few years ago, I wrote a book called Relational Judaism. I coined this term, Relational Judaism. People say, what does that mean? What it means is that in our synagogues in the 20th century, the idea of engaging people in the life of the spiritual community was lots of programs. Come to the programs. That's where you're going to meet people. That's where you're going to get engaged. Or people would say, I'm going to use the synagogue in a transactional way. I'm going to pay you dues. I mean, when do people join a synagogue? Most people. When their kid's ready for bar and bat mitzvah, right? When do people drop out of synagogues? The youngest kid is bar bat mitzvah. All of a sudden they're gone. So you mean to tell me you're in a congregation for 10, 12, 14 years maybe if you have 2 or 3 kids, and then at the end of it you quit? So the most devastating interview I did for that book, I did 150 interviews, was with a rabbi in a very large Reformed temple in Dallas, Texas. I can't tell you his name, but it's Rabbi David Stern. He let me tell the name in the next book I did. And he said, Ron, I have to tell you this story. A woman in our congregation, been a member for 20 years, and I get a note from the office, she quit. So I called her up and I said, I can't believe you're leaving the congregation. You come to everything. And this woman said to the rabbi, Rabbi, I came to everything and I met nobody. Now part of that is on her. You have to kind of extend yourself. But the rabbi was devastated because he had a whole calendar of programs. All kinds of lectures and events and all sorts of things. And there is nothing, Liz is right, there's nothing wrong with programs. But the rabbi understood what I'm here to share with you, that what happens within the programs to help people connect is what we really ought to focus on. Because people will come for programs, but they'll stay because of relationships. Like you guys. I've been to hundreds and hundreds of synagogues all over the world. And in 5 minutes, when I walk into a social hall like I did tonight, I can tell whether this is a relational community or not, and you are. It's what my mother would have called it, Hamish. It's a warm, welcoming community. My job is to help us go deeper. Help us go deeper from the base you already have. So for example, how many of you met me before you came in tonight to the synagogue or to the sanctuary? A lot of you, right? Because that's something I do all the time. It wasn't just at the biennial. I teach my students to do that when they're teachers. Be at the front door and welcome people in. Because when you do that, you get to hear their stories. You get to actually meet somebody face to face. And what I'd like to do with you is to experiment with it here. You know, in the church world, sometimes they do something called pass the peace. Pass the peace is turn and say hello to someone. Or turn and say, I've been in a lot of synagogues, turn and say Shabbat Shalom to someone. That's fine, but what if we took 5 minutes to meet someone in this sanctuary you don't know? In fact, I was going around at the schmooze introducing myself to every table, and I asked people at the table, do you know everybody in the room? And everybody said, well, I know a lot of people, but there are some people I haven't met yet. I said, well, we're going to have a chance to do it right now. So this is what I'd like us to do. In 5 minutes, you're only going to get 5 minutes, I'm going to ask you to meet someone in the room you don't know or you don't know well. And what you're going to do is you're going to come up to them and you're going to shake a hand. You're going to say, Shabbat Shalom. Hi, I'm Ron. I'm Bob. The name tags help out in that way. And we're going to try to make a connection. Like, where'd you grow up, Bob?
I grew up originally in Albany, New York.
Albany, New York. And I grew up in Omaha. Great. Where'd you go to college?
University of Buffalo.
In Buffalo. And I went to Washington University in St. Louis. And we're going to try to connect on a personal level just for a minute. Just for a minute. Just something like that. But then, I'd like you to talk with each other about one of 3 things. Here's the first. You'll ask yourselves this question, your new friend. What keeps you up at night? Don't tell me prostate. Don't tell me that. What keeps you up at night is what you're worried about. What you're worried about, right? Or you can ask this question of your new friend. What gets you up in the morning? That's what you're passionate about. That's what you're excited about, right? Or I learned in New Orleans. In New Orleans, when you meet someone for the first time, this is what you're asked. Where you at? That's one word. Where you at? What's your story? And you're only going to get 5 minutes. And at the end of the 5 minutes, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to bring you back to sit down. And when you start to hear me clap, and I'll do this with you in a second, you'll say goodbye to your new friend. You say, you know what? Let's have some cake together in the Erev Shabbat, and then maybe after that we'll have a coffee date and we'll get to know each other better. Ready? So here's what you got to do to get back into your pew. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. Come on. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. Good. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 3 times. When you hear me doing that, that's your signal to say goodbye to your new friend for just a while, and you'll meet again in the Erev Shabbat. So you're going to meet someone in the room you don't know. You're going to ask one of those three, you're going to connect on one of those three questions. What keeps you up at night, what gets you up in the morning, or where are you at? 1, 2, 3, go. Come on, let's go. hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. Say goodbye to your friend. If you can hear, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. Please come and sit down. One more time. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. Come on. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap once. And if you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 3 times. So now, I want to share with you what happened to me in Nyack, New York, about 4 years ago. I was asked to come and do a workshop on relational Judaism with 175 leaders of different synagogues in Nyack area. And I invited the group to have this experience that I call a relational moment. And I let people go to meet someone in the room they didn't know. And 2 women were in the front of the room, and within 20 seconds of them meeting as strangers, they were crying, they were laughing, they were hugging. And I went up to them and I said, "What is going on here?" And they said, "Well, Ron, you said to go meet someone in the room you didn't know. We were in 4th grade together. And we've not seen each other in 40 years. And now we're both presidents of 2 different synagogues in the Nyack area, 2 different synagogues in the Nyack area, and we've now reconnected." And I said, "That's wonderful." And they said, "But Ron, you realize that if you had not provided us this 5-minute relational moment, we would have left tonight having not reconnected." That's the power of 5 minutes in a program to help build relationships. Now, some of you were with us earlier this evening enjoying the wonderful deli food and Bernice's great challah. And I was going around to different tables. Did you see me doing that? I call that working the sanctuary or the social hall. And I went to one table where the Millers were sitting. And I came up to Sandy Miller, and we started to talk. This is Sandy Miller, everybody. And I said, stand with me, Sandy. This is the testimonial part of our evening. I said, how long you been in Rochester? And you said?
40 years.
40 years. And I said, well, what did you do what have you done in your career? What are you doing?
I do mathematics.
You do mathematics. Oh. I said, well, how do you do mathematics? And you said, I'm a...
Professor at SUNY Brockport.
That's right, a professor. And I said, oh, would you come with me for a minute? And I took Sandy over to a table further in the room. Did anybody see me doing this? And I said, I'd like you to meet Josh Faber. Josh, would you come up here a second? This is Josh. And I said, you got to meet Josh, because Josh picked me up at the airport this afternoon. And on the way from the airport to the hotel, I asked Josh about his story, and he told me he is a math professor. And then he went to what school?
MIT.
MIT. And what school did you go to, Sandy?
MIT.
MIT. And I said, well, you got to come over and meet Josh. And they spent 20 minutes talking to each other over Bernice's challah.
And we knew each other since the 4th grade.
And Sit down. There's always somebody. But do you see the power? The power of connecting people to each other. And that has got to be the core of our sacred communities in the 21st century, where relationships are key, because it's all about relationships. That's what Judaism itself teaches us, that we ought to be in relationship with ourselves, in relationship to our family, Ben Adam lemishpacha, between me and my family, however you define family. Ben Adam lechavero, between me and my friends. Because that's really what a sacred community is. It's a collection of friends. We're going to be there for each other and care for each other in good times and bad. When you have that, you have a value offer that is not achievable in any other platform or any other vehicle or any other institution I know. Because there are places you can make friends, but there are few places in the world where you can make friends on a spiritual level. We're going to be there for you in that Shiva, and they're going to be there for you in your Simcha. And that's what a great synagogue, sacred community is all about. And that's what you guys have here at Temple Sinai. And our job is to go deeper and to recruit more people to come and join our community and keep it vibrant well into the 21st century. We started the evening singing, Hine ma tovu manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Everyone seems to know this wonderful psalm. And it's a very interesting psalm, because if you look at the words, what does it really say? Hine means hey, or here. Ma is a word, Hebrew word that means what? Yes, it means what or how. Most of your Passover Haggadot, that's our next big holiday, mistranslate the word ma as why. Ma nishtana alayla zeh. It's translated as why is this night different? That's incorrect. Ma means what's different this night? How different is this night? And then you get the questions. Tov is a Hebrew word that means good, a word I never heard in Hebrew school, not once. Umanayim, and how pleasant. Naim is the word for pleasing, pleasant. If I say in Hebrew, Shmi Rani, my name is Rani, you would say back in Hebrew, Naim Ma'od, pleased to meet you. That's what Naim means. So how good and how pleasing it is. Shevet Achim, when brothers and sisters are living, dwelling in relationship with each other. And then we have the word Gam, which in Hebrew means also, but the last word is Yachad, which means together, the watchword of relational Judaism. Hey, how good and how pleasing is it when all of us are dwelling, living in relationship, also together, Gam, doesn't seem to fit. It could have been, Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim yachad, and it still works. So why is the word Gam in there in the Torah, in the Psalms? Well, it looks extraneous, but the rabbis teach us there's no extra word in the Torah. So it must be there for a reason. And the book of Zohar gives us the reason. In the book of Zohar, the book of Jewish mysticism, we learn this. The word Gam is there because every human being is made b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. So you're made in the image of God, Ed. I'm made in the image of God. And when we shake hands, that's where I find God, right here. Not up there, right here, in relationship. That's why Gam is in Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim Gam Yachad. And not only does it mean that God is present when we're in sacred community, and it's pleasing to us to be in sacred community relationships, the Zohar concludes, and I love this, God is pleased that we're in relationship. How good is that? So we're going to conclude the service in a minute. But can we do something that I never ever learned in Omaha, but since I moved to California, It's a California thing. Would you rise if you're able with me? Put your arms around each other. That's the California thing. And let's sing. Hine matov manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Don't forget to look at each other. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Good, look at them smile. Nei matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manayim shevet achim gam yachad. I give a Shabbos kiss to an angel next to you. Shabbat shalom.
And don't be seated yet.
Don't be seated.
Don't be seated. Keep that sense of yachad together. Please, if you're able, remain standing. And as we know, what keeps us, thank you, together and strong and vibrant aren't the structures in our religion. It is not the keva, it's the kavanah, right? It is the intention with which we do our sacred work in relationship with one another. Please do come back tomorrow morning for Bible study tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Join us. You'll see there's a whole list of opportunities to continue your mining with Dr. Wolfson and be with us. 9:15 tomorrow morning is Torah study. 9:15 is Torah study, and we'll have services together, and we will also have a lunch and learn following. You can see all the wonderful opportunities to continue this sacred work together. Please, as we continue, would you join us on page 586 for our closing prayers for the Aleinu. Continue as we turn our thoughts and think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. During the period of Shloshim, these past 30 days, we are remembering Annette Itkin, mother of Howard Itkin and aunt of Michael and Susan Harf, Stephen Ellman, brother-in-law of Karen Rosenblum, Eileen Schneer, mother of Jocelyn Goldberg Scheibel, and Ita Weingarten, sister of Neely Cannell and aunt of Sandra Cannell. This Shabbat marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing for Esther Abramovitz, Sandra Baxter, Phyllis Rapp Brown, Milton Dates, Lena Danoff, Margaret Ebner, Pierre Fenster, Bob Fisher, Elsie Foreman, Ben Frindle, David Goldman, Jack Gordon, Molly Gross, Pesya Gorovec, Shirley Jacobson, Moisey Solomon Krasnick, Isabel Kraus, Abe Levitt, Bernard Michelin, Mildred Michelin, Rachel Morrison, Paul Nemitz, Richard Phillips, Ben Seidel, Herman Sarakin, Arnold Scheidlauer, Sarah Silver, and Charlotte Tickell. If there are other names that you would add to either list, or names better spoken aloud by you. Please, as I look your way, would you share that name with us?
George Lou Kaufman.
Miller Rabinowitz.
Stanley Rusinski.
Ira Waldinger.
Michael Weintraub.
Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing as we join together on page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yid Kadal v'Yid Kadash Shmei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mivarach le'olam omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'Kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, Huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all who are mourning, to all Israel, and to which we say together, Amen. Please be seated. We want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. If you're joining us newly, please be sure, Esther Brill, will you give a wave at the back? Esther was your greeter this evening, and if you have not yet had an opportunity to meet with Esther, please do so and join us in the Oneg afterwards so we can meet and greet you as well. We have, as we know, Torah study continues tomorrow morning at 9:15, and then services at 10:30, followed by continued learning with Dr. Ron Wolfson at our Lunch and Learn at noon tomorrow, to which all are invited. We have our underwriters dinner at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. That, for those of you who have reserved your spot in that, we will see you at 6, and then the open lecture at 7:30 tomorrow evening back here as well. No adult ed on Sunday morning. We have an opportunity for our board to continue their learning with Dr. Wolfson and other opportunities during the day, and religious school as usual on Sunday. We have our next family Shabbat service and dinner with friends Friday, April 5th at 6 p.m. It's called Get Ready for Passover. It is coming. Crafts and after dinner. Please be sure to join us. If that doesn't grab you all by itself, be sure to join us for the Sunshine 2.0 RIT and NTID from RIT and the National Technological Institute for the Deaf. Yes, close? Try it yet? Their professional traveling theater group, which we had hoped to have during our February month of events, but we are so pleased that they can be here on April 5th. Please be sure to join us and bring others whom you think might be interested in that gathering as well. And then join us, just when we finished with disco, join us for the Borscht Belt Bash. Say that 10 times fast. On Sunday evening, April 28th at 5:30, we will revisit this golden era of glorious Catskill resorts with dining, dancing, and comedy by Sky Sands. And you should have received your invitation at this point in the mail. If not, it is soon to be arriving, and you can register online or in the office as well. It will most assuredly be another wonderful opportunity for us to meet and greet and be in community together. And from you, what are your joys? What are your successes? What should we know about in the community? Tell us what is happening. No, everybody very hungry. Esther.
Come out on Sunday, Tracy see it to come and hear and dance to the Temple Sinai Klezmer Band.
Okay. We are always happy and grateful to have Rabbi Gottlieb with us, and we are also very happy this evening to have Rabbi Silbert join us in the congregation once again. And it is a pleasure to have such a robust group this evening, and we're looking forward to the rest of the weekend with you as well. We will continue. We will you can come with us to page 652, which will eventually be our closing song, and we will actually first turn to Motzi. And Dr. Wolfson, I wonder if you would join us to make Motzi. And maybe if you're lucky, it might be Bernice, is it? We need the dun-dun-dun music, right? Please, let's give thanks for that which sustains and nourishes us as we make Motzi together. Amen.
It's delicious. Go into business, Bernice. Come on.
Our closing song. So, you can't, Dr. Wolfson, you can't leave yet.
I'm going to be right here saying goodbye.
Share that challah, it is goodness. We are going to share our closing song, Aniva Ata. We say Aniva Ata Nishaneh et Haolam. Together, you and I will have the capacity to change the world. When we talked about the things that keep us up at night and the things that get us up in the morning, it is the opportunity to, in some measure, work toward repairing and changing the world together. Please join us for Aniva Ata on page 652. And for our closing benediction, we invite you once again, please, to rise. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, our God and God of our fathers, let us be reminded that you and I will change the world, you and I. Then all will join us. Though it's been said before, it doesn't matter. You and I will change the world. You and I will start from the beginning. It may be difficult, but it doesn't matter. Ani ve'ata nishaneh et ha'olam. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
The women is Shushan, and 5 women come out and they dance. And the men is Shushan and I come out. That's funny. That was really good. It was long. It was so much fun.
Yes, right. That's right. But they talk. But everything you see, yeah, what are you gonna do? Wednesday night.
Yeah, but I don't want to pick
It's very funny because people that take no, and they don't even realize it. It's that little teacher, you know, like when Sam, Marilyn, Rose, and Liz.
Rochester's a weird community.
Rochester's a fascinating. Did you ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Last few years,
I know of it.
reinvent the way engineers do engineering, and using different statistical techniques that were unholy. That came out of the Air Force, actually. It worked really well.